Thank you for coming tonight, ladies and gentlemen. The actors will come out if I ask them nicely, and if you want to ask any questions or find out what's going on with these three characters, then hang on and they'll be out in a second. Okay? Thank you.
Hello.
We're coming to the lion bit.
That's like the fire exploded. There you go, grills.
Yeah. If anybody's got any questions, then you know who the friar is, you know who Juliet is, and you know who the nurse is. No questions?
Oh,
It's the last one then.
Yeah, that's right. This is the last show. Yeah, we did it in Buxton before we came here, and now we're doing a couple here. In
Yeah.
Yeah.
And our last evening, so yeah, thank you for coming to me.
Thank
you. We really do appreciate you coming out to theatre. We know there's a lot of people are, still a little bit worried about coming into theatre, so we do really appreciate it. Yeah, thank you very much.
What's it like for you guys?
Rehearsal.
In performing now
Yeah.
in
This
theatre?
situation, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're delighted to be back.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a bit strange, isn't it? Sort of a bit strange, because you two did this in Buxton.
Yeah.
And I've just come from another show, so we've all had the sort of first thing before this, haven't we?
Yeah.
But very odd. Really odd.
Yeah, what was probably most odd was the rehearsal process, which was largely over Zoom. And you sort of altering your room to roughly, if you got enough space, to roughly approximate to having a tomb there and like 3 stations for each of the characters. And then thankfully we did have some days in a proper rehearsal space.
Yes, well, a pub.
Yeah.
Yeah, we went to
Let's get this right. Yeah.
And that's helped bring the thing along. Yes, odd I would say, but I think Frank, as the writer, wrote it partly, well, Frank can speak for himself, but partly with the thought that, these are 3 interconnected stories, and so it had a kind of social distancing element. Built in.
Fortunately.
Yeah,
We may have reduced that slightly, but not quite as much.
So strange, but it's in some ways it's nice to be on the theatre and back in the theatre, and I'm trying not to cough on you all. But, I'm double vaccinated, so I'll do my best.
Yes. We had a Q&A in Buxton. One of the first questions was from the audience to the actors, what's it like to be performing to mass in the audience? Which I found very interesting. I forget what you said at the time, but you found it a bit odd, did you?
Yeah, well, I think, here we've got the lights full on us, so we couldn't see you
We
so
can't
much
really
in this
see
one.
you.
Yeah, in our Buxton venue, you can still see the eyes and you can see if people are engaging with you or not.
Yeah.
So that was really lovely. They did engage with us, thank goodness.
Yeah.
But not so much here because we couldn't really see you in your masks, but you do all look splendid. Thank you. And we were trying, we're all double jabbed, and we were trying to, when Frank said to me, get closer to the audience, I'm thinking, they don't think we're going to fire,
And then we thought you might fall off it.
That's right. We also had a Q&A last night, which is very good as well, and a lot of the questions were, well, I have to say, sorry Alex, but a lot of the questions were about him at the end. What kind of character is this friar? And I don't know what your thoughts are, having had an exposure to his...
I had a sense that the nurse and the friar were sort of trying to justify what a nurse had done to this young couple.
Yes, we didn't. The friar certainly didn't work it through. In terms of supposedly a mature man who's got a lot of experience, he concocts a very haphazard, risky plan one way or the other.
Well, we were saying during the rehearsals, weren't we? If you actually think of it in the sort of cold light of day, 2 responsible adults sort of aided and abetted a group of teenagers and ended up with 3 of them dead.
Yeah.
So it's sort of, should you have known better, should you not have done? Where is blame apportioned? Can you apportion blame at all? And nobody's blameless.
But this particular world that they live in is a world which is constricted and constrained. It's rather like a totalitarian state at which there's a gang warfare that goes on between 2 feuding families. It's
a mess.
If you thought the UK was a mess, this place is it's worse.
And I think the questions again last night was about the dubious nature of this friar, but you did have some try to rally a defence.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Poor Alex.
But I'm not here to be nice. Neither is the friar. It's up to, you know, we present it a story, and hopefully it gives a slightly different slant on Romeo and Juliet, and it's something to think about and take away with you. And if we've communicated a story, that's the main thing, to communicate a story.
A Juliet question.
Yes.
Yay. I was trying to work out as the sort of play was going along whether you were. This was all running through your head before you killed yourself, or whether you were sort of the ghost after the event, and I wasn't quite sure.
It's deliberately ambiguous,
Yeah.
so we've left it really ambiguous, haven't we?
Yeah.
Frank and I have been working on the Juliet story since March last year, so this has been like a really long slog of deconstructing this play. So the thing we've sort of landed on was, it's either her sort of suspended in time just before she takes the potion, which is one sort of look at it, or it's when she's taken it and she is pretty much as good as dead, and it's everything that goes through her head, or it's after death and she's in some sort of purgatory, which is why she's sort of a bit like, you know, you two are tied to a fixed time or place, the events have happened and you're looking back on it. She's sort of running through past, present and future at the same time, and still ends up taking the same action at the end. It's always going to end the same way, but it was deliberately sort of a bit odd in that, is it all a figment of her imagination? Is it a terrible nightmare? Is she looking forward or back? Or is she dead? Is she not dead? So, yes.
Is that a good answer?
Great answer.
I understand it's fairly
Everybody's
it's
right.
confusing. It's confusing. The only way I could sort of make it sort of rational in my head, you know, we talked about this the other day, is that everything that she's seeing, and even you two, it's sort of, everything's got a bit of a misty quality, and things sort of assemble things and then disappear as soon as they appear, and it's just this sort of, I'm not really sure where I am, what I'm doing, or even whether I'm dead or alive, or what's really happened. It's that sort of, it is sort of a purgatory state essentially, but obviously with the same,
being in a dream. It's like when you're in a dream, you're not sure, am I awake, am I in this dream, have I just woken up, am I going back into the dream? It's that sort of amorphous place that possibly where our brains exist, you know, in our everyday lives, but we don't ever see much of it.
Yeah, and I mean it certainly fits with, you know, the taking of the potion speech. We've split up between about 3 or 4 or 5 scenes, haven't we? So it literally feels like, oh, this and then maybe come back to that bit and this fear and this fear. So it's incredibly disorientating to do because you're not quite sure whether you're coming or going. Thank you.
Yes. Again, we talked about yourself as a nurse, Jerry. What did you think you found in the process?
Well, I think in the you know, Frank and I workshopped this for a long time, and we really looked at the background to Nurse, and of course in the play we don't really get to know what happens to Nurse, but when we worked it through logically, we realised that, you know, without her charge, she was no longer needed around the Capulets at all, so that the likelihood is that she would be, except she didn't have a great relationship with the Capulets, that's very obvious in the play, and the likelihood is that she would lose her job, she loses her home, and as well as losing Juliet, she's, you know, in her line, all is lost, it's all gone. She's, but being a very pragmatic character that she is, she's already gone through the loss of her husband, the loss of her child, now Juliet, and she's picked herself up again and again and again, and so this is, we decided we'd send her home to Naples, and that she'd find more work there
Before the friar tries to like.
Well, yeah, and so it's
gang up on her.
The likelihood is that she would have a lot of blame would have fell on her shoulders, because she was, especially since she didn't stay with Juliet the night before, you know. She would normally sleep with Juliet, she was her nurse, and she would normally sleep in her chamber with her. And when Juliet said, you know, it's okay, nurse, she went.
Yeah, and in this world, she's pretty expendable, isn't she?
Oh, totally, yeah.
Whereas the friar, although some of his behaviour may be more dubious than the nurses, in this world, certainly in the original play, the implication is the friar, well, it's open to interpretation, but one interpretation is the friar sort of gets a telling off and he's fine. And it's partly to do with issues to do with social status, I'd say. The friar is near the top of the social pyramid, as are the Capulets. And also what's intriguing is that the friar's, perhaps, in my opinion, the friar's most valid sort of blame shifting or blame apportioning is firstly at the whole of the society which has created this mess and at the feuding families, to be honest. There's a number of victims of this situation. Everything gets squeezed and constrained in this world, including the friar's behaviour, including Juliet's behaviour, the nurse's behaviour. Yeah, it's the whole nasty, horrible feud and the society that it exists in. That's how it feels to me, rather than the friar's the bad guy. But I would say that, wouldn't I? So.
It's because we keep picking on you.
I defend the friar, but I can see the friar is very fallible in lots of ways. He's very fallible, he's very human.
Yeah. And he has a tussle with his God, doesn't he, at the time, doesn't he? I think he's still questioning what is his role from God in this on earth, basically.
I could, because you asked at the start, how does it feel? How does it feel for you guys coming out to a theatre?
It's our first time, and it felt very weird. Since looking down here, actually.
Yeah, okay.
Welcome
I've been before.
Yeah.
It takes some getting used to get back into the world.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very true. That is true. We're glad you came.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Our first time as well, and I never used to come to the theatre as often as I wanted to.
Yeah.
But having that period where we couldn't come, even if we wanted to, it's made me think that, I need to start appreciating what we've got.
Yeah. I think we all feel that way. Yeah.
It's like a lot of things you only miss it when it's not
Yes.
there.
When you haven't got it.
And it's been a long time, hasn't it? A long time for theatre.
Yeah. And it is good, I think, from all of us just to be able to have done something and be here tonight and the last few nights and just feel we not lay the ghost, but it's like, dealing with this. Is it going to happen? Is this the end of theatre? What are we going to do? Well, we've done something, so it's a big push.
Especially considering this, when you and I started sort of creating this, we never thought it would actually be a theatre piece.
No.
It was initially going to be sort of maybe an audio piece, because that was the world that we were in. We were all converted to audio or video.
That's right.
And then it just happened to sort of merrily converge into a 3-part story, and we, obviously everything being on Zoom and then a bit in person, but we have been able to actually put it on, which is a real achievement considering.
I think so.
I suspect some great writing will come out of the last 18 months.
Well, we hope so.
People have had a lot of time to work on stuff.
Absolutely.
There's definitely some good stuff coming.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, but maybe that kind of pent up, you've got 18 months of nothing, and so an eruption hopefully will come out of all this.
People have been able to take the time as well to actually research and develop new pieces. So, I think that makes a difference.
Yeah.
Pros and cons.
Pros and cons, be positive, and that's what it's all about. Theatre goes on, whatever, it moves forward. That's great. And here we are. So I'm going to let these actors do what they have to do, and say thank you very much, and thank you to
Thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.